Similarly, among the youth in UST. I was thinking that he will walk south in Luneta. But I heard also from the same person that the Holy Father very sensitive and very perspicacious, as they said. He feels really what's happening to people. He was told that the people were in Luneta for already almost 10 hours. Or maybe about 8 hours. And so, even before 3:30, he started the Mass. And before 5:30, the things were done. Because there was also a wind factor of that rainy day. And so people were really not only wet, but they were already kind of shivering. And so the Holy Father, recognizing that, he didn't want more people to suffer, or people to suffer more. And so he did it like that. He just read from his holy. Quite a short one, actually. I was surprised it was so short. What I'll do tonight is share with you the messages of Pope Francis, but also perhaps because it's an evening and I cannot take the whole time, just focus on a kind of what we would say a common theme that you could take away from his messages, both delivered, but also those he did not deliver but remains unread. You can take this from Rappler. All the messages are found in rappler.com. I have them here myself, but you may want to look into them. They're not too many though, because the occasions were just few. So it starts with a meeting with the government officials, on to the priests and the religious of the cathedral, then down to the meeting with the families, Tacloban, again with the Mass, and then was cut short already, then he went back, and finally UST. With the religious leaders, it was just 15 minutes. More of photo op, more of saying hi and hello. But the speech was more really for the youth, and then finally to the crowd, to the Filipino people at Luneta. I believe that the context of the coming of the Pope is very important. And this was supplied the day before he came by no other than Pietro Cardinal Parolin, the Secretary of State of the Vatican, the second in command of the so-called country or nation called Vatican. Cardinal Parolin says that one of the purposes, or maybe the specific purpose for which the Pope has come, is the Pope wishes to place himself within the 9-year project which is leading to the celebration of the 5th centenary of the coming of the Gospel in the Philippines, 1521. So we are preparing, and we are within that 9-year project from year 2012 until 2013, with the so-called year of faith formation, or year of the faith, the proclamation of the faith. Last year was the year of the laity, now we are in the year of the poor. And so he says it's there. And this year is the year dedicated to the poor. This is very important, brothers and sisters, to look at the context. That means the Holy Father is not just here for a short time and then goes away. But I think the Holy Father has come to tell us, sige, prepare for the 500th anniversary of your receiving the Gospel. You know, in 1521, March 16, Magellan came according to Yoyo Villamin's song. But March 31, Easter of that year, he celebrated the Mass at Limasawa. April 14, he baptized King Humabon and his queen, Hara Amihan. Mind you, hindi Ara Mina. Hara Amihan, who became Carlos and Juana. And with them, about 800 Filipinos. Cebuanos, if you want to call them, or Visayans. It is more important April 14, 2 weeks after, than March 31. March 31, we were just observers. We could not participate in the Mass. We were not baptized. But came April 14, not only were we baptized, but we accepted the faith. It's not enough to be seeing the Mass and hearing Mass. It's important to receive communion. But if you're not baptized, the Mass is not a Mass because you're just an observer. But now baptized, you can receive communion. You can actively say, I accept God in my life. So, we are celebrating that day. It is in Cebu. 2021, 6 years from now. We're celebrating not only the arrival of the faith, but the acceptance of the people of that faith. And nearly 500 years. What is even beautiful is that there is no single country in the world that has a proof of this date because of the Santo Niño. They took a carbon dating of the wood. It is of that era, 1500s. It is not made in China. It's made in Spain. The wood comes from Spain. So there is really a proof, authentic proof, that something happened according to the chronicles of Pigafetta. They exist in the internet. Although it's very old Italian, but it exists, the chronicles of this first circumnavigation of the world by a ship that came from Spain, went to the west to arrive on the east to prove that the world is round. Diba? Heading west, you cross the Atlantic, you reach the Americas, you go more west, but actually you reach the Far East. So it's really a proof that the world is round, but we have a greater proof of the faith. Which statue we did not reject. Because even if Magellan was killed by Lapu-Lapu, that statue was found 1565, 450 years ago. It was found in a burning hut in Cebu. And so today, this year, the Augustinian friars are celebrating their 450th anniversary of arrival and therefore the start of Christianization in the Philippines. That's the context, a very important one to note. We are in the year of the poor. The question is, who is the poor? Who is the poor? Are they those who lack, kakulangan, and therefore in different dimensions, mostly financial, we call the poor, or sometimes emotional? They say there are two kinds of poor, those who have nothing, but also those who have no one, which is worse. No? There's also a third kind, those who have only God, the poor in spirit. Is it the people who lack and therefore does not have this sense of truly being human? But there's another way of looking at the poor. Or are they those who can forget themselves as well as give generously to another? As every human being is endowed by that image and likeness of God. I believe that the second is very true. They may lack many things, but don't ever deny them the fact that they could be more generous than those who have so much. Alam nyo, hindi St. James Alabang ang highest grosser in terms of abuloy kolekta sa simbahan. Hindi. It's Quiapo. 25 piso. Pinapalang pera doon. And it's a top grosser of any collection. It's the little cousin. She, in her poverty, gave all she had to live on. Remember the poor widow?
Yeah.
The put 2 copper coins in the temple box. And Jesus said she gave more. Though she gave little, she gave more because she gave all. You know, you don't have to have a lot of money to help a person. Here in your midst is PJ Kumpas. I told about him in the television when I was being interviewed. He packed bags from, I think, 10 o'clock at night or 8 o'clock up to 3 in the morning for the Yolanda victims. He doesn't know anyone from Tacloban. But for 3 straight nights, he went to ABS-CBN to pack those bags. Doesn't have money, but he has generosity of heart for time and for effort. The first, I was asked by Cardinal Rosales to take care spiritually of the Couples for Christ FFL. And the first group of people who went to Tacloban were members of the community from Biliran. We had 10 members in Tacloban. We had members from Biliran. They walked with their wives, brought their kettles, their pots, their rice, their food, because they will build the temporary shelter. But they brought more food because when they were eating, because they were tired of building those temporary huts, which anyway, Rubina Arsenia destroyed altogether before the Pope's coming. But they had also to feed those who were working with them to set up the houses. They had nothing in Tacloban, but they brought everything from Biliran. Sabi nga ng isang eta, isang message dun sa Infanta Quezon sa Sierra Madre, says, ako'y may bigas kalahating gatang lamang, kasya sa marami sa isang bulan. Very wise. Meron akong bigas kalahating gatang lang, pero sa marami kasya, pero sa isang bulan. Very ironic. Depends on how you look at rice. If it is only for yourself, it's too little. But if it is shared to as many, it can suffice for many more. The poor have this richness. Usap ko nga yung sister-in-law ko, 10 sila sa pamilya, mayaman, nag-aaway sa pera. Nag-aaway sa inheritance. Yung pobre walang pera, nagtutulungan. Di ba iba? Mayaman ka, marami kang pera, away-away. Mahirap ka, walang pera, walang pag-away. At nag-OFW, nagpapadala ng pera para ang kapatid ay makapag-aral. Di ba? Iba di ba? Ibang pananaw ng mahirap. I don't think talagang mahirap sila. Meron silang kayamanan. So maybe from that perspective, the Holy Father also came. Bakit? Sa totoo lang yung dagsa ng tao na umabot siguro ng 6 million, pero yun ang nasa luneta. What about those everyday? No? Hinahanap siya, tumatakbo. I'm sure many more people came, just to have a glimpse of this Holy Father. And they would stay for 3 hours, 10 hours, 5 hours on the streets, lining up from Villamor, I don't know, to Rojas Boulevard, to Quirino, to whatever, to Taft Avenue, wherever he was going, they were there. They were the poor. They had time. Thanks be to God. Pinoy declared it non-working holiday, so therefore even the rich cannot work, so they went to Macau. I know a person. The whole family went to Macau. They have no business about this one. But the poor, they cannot go to Macau. But you know, the country saved a lot of money. If you have to go to Rome to see the Pope, you need $1,100. With 10 million, that's $10 billion that we saved. Because he came, and so everybody was able to see the Pope. No need to go to Rome. Just imagine, when you look at perspectives, at mentality, iba yung sinakawang natin mahirap. Baka tayo ang nag-i-boss, hindi sila. Arrival, very beautiful. Kahit Philippine Airlines, Sri Lanka ang nasa likod, syempre. That was the host country that brought him to Manila. Of course, you will see Philippine Airlines in Rome, the first flight again after so many years. And maybe we're not even sure if there will be another flight to Rome. But they didn't even, by the way, they didn't even stay there for 2 hours. They flew back. Same, another crew, but they flew back. The first meeting, what can you get of a message of the Holy Father? Very clearly put, small as it is, it says, I hope that this prophetic summons will challenge everyone at all levels of society to reject every form of corruption because it diverts resources from the poor.
No.
Corruption is not an evil. It is devil. Because already the poor is poor, and yet corruption diverts what is for them. Nagpadala ng spam galing sa Amerika. Nagpadala ng, sabihin natin, ng mga hotdogs or whatever from Germany. Ang natanggap ng Pilipino, CBO. Pinagtan yung galing sa abroad na pagkain. Hindi naman daw na matitik, hindi naman sila sanay sa ganung pagkain. Bigay mo na lang yung CBO. Sino gumanan siya? Sorry, I mean, it's devilish. And why? Because they're always excluded in the life of the community. That's how the Pope has said to our government leaders. I hope you will listen to the summons, the challenge of this summons I'm telling you. You are leaders, top leaders in government. Take away this corruption. Well, he's talking to those who are at the head of this corrupt society. To the priests and religious. So we go to mourning again. Ito, importante ito. Living the newness of the gospel means finding every day in community life and community apostolates the incentive for an ever closer union with God in perfect charity. That's good. To live the priestly life, to live the religious life, nuns and brothers, it means to grow in perfect charity. But what is that perfect charity? It must first reflect that the love comes from the poverty of Christ. The richness of every person is love. But you have to be poor to be able to love because you have to forget yourself. That's the poverty of Christ. He forsook his wonderful life in heaven, became one of us, so that in his richness, he became poor, so that he may bring about the poverty in us to the richness of the children of God. There, we are asked, priests and religious, to reflect the poverty of Christ, because our life is now focused only on one thing, to do the Father's will and to serve our brothers and sisters. The one thing necessary. Solo Diyos, basta. As the rest of Avila will say. So if this is also about poverty, it's now this time a life of poverty. Making an option to be poor. And that is being told to us, priests and religious. Continuing, he said, the great danger afflicting the religious and the priest is that certain materialism that compromises the witness that we could offer. Because only by becoming poor ourselves, by stripping away our complacency, will we be able to identify with the least of our brothers and sisters. Beyond. When we are able to live like poor, we shall see things in a new light. and we could respond with greater honesty and radicalism of the gospel. Because our society, where we belong, priests and religious, have become complacent. And what is that complacency? We got used. We're comfortable with social exclusion. We're very comfortable that the poor do not have the best services for them. Because they're poor, let them get also poor services.